It usually doesn't start with fear. It starts with connection. Someone who sees you, understands you, maybe even protects you. But somewhere along the way, you stop feeling fully free. You start questioning yourself more than you question them. If you've ever caught yourself wondering, am I being groomed? Or maybe looking back thinking, wait, was I groomed and didn't even realize? You're not alone. And the truth is, grooming doesn't always look the way we expect, because sometimes the people who made us feel the most special were the ones who blurred the lines the most. Today, we're gonna look at a few, not all, of the signs that you may be or have been groomed. Sign 1, they create emotional dependency by positioning themselves as your safe place and advocate. At the start, it doesn't feel manipulative at all. It feels empowering. A groomer, consciously or unconsciously, positions themselves as your emotional anchor and your greatest supporter. They become the one who believes in you when others don't, the one who sees your potential when you doubt yourself. At first, the bond feels like mentorship, growth, even partnership. But slowly, it shifts. You begin seeking their validation before trusting your own instincts. You weigh their opinions heavier than your own. You feel unsettled at the thought of disappointing them, even over small things. Emotional dependency isn't built by force. It's built by consistent emotional reinforcement until your self-trust slowly reroutes through them. It often sounds like, I think you have more potential than you realize, and I'd love to help you grow it. You're the kind of person who deserves to be supported at a higher level. Not everyone would understand that, but I do. With the right mentorship, with the right partnership, you could do something really powerful. By the time dependency feels heavy, the person already feels indispensable, and questioning their influence feels like jeopardizing your future. You might even start wondering if you misread the signals or if it's your fault for not being ready for what they saw in you. Sign 2, they test your boundaries and redefine the rules without saying it. It doesn't always happen with a dramatic overstep. It happens through small tests, moments that seem harmless on the surface. Maybe they ask for personal favors outside your role. Maybe they comment on your appearance in a way that feels too familiar, but frame it as just a compliment. Maybe they hint at loyalty, trust, or favors that go beyond what was originally agreed. And if you hesitate, they don't get angry. They charm, they flatter, they explain why it's different with you. And instead of setting off alarm bells, these small moments leave you second guessing your own reactions. This is where people often feel vulnerable. When you don't want to seem ungrateful or high maintenance, when you think, maybe I'm overreacting, they've been so good to me. Or you worry that speaking up might damage your opportunity or relationship. Here are some red flags to notice. If you feel a flicker of discomfort but immediately talk yourself out of it. They joke about pushing boundaries and watch your reaction carefully. The expectations between you shift, but the conversation about those expectations never happens. Here's how to protect yourself without burning bridges. Name the boundary lightly. I'm more comfortable keeping things professional. Set soft limits early. I really appreciate the mentorship. I'd love to keep our connection focused on the work. Buy time when unsure. Let me think about that and get back to you. This delays impulse pressure and recenters yourself. You don't have to accuse anyone. You don't have to walk away instantly. You just have to stay anchored in your own instincts, because healthy opportunities won't require you to abandon them. Sign 3, they quietly shift your sense of what's normal. At first, it feels like you're just growing closer. You're adapting to someone's world, their preferences, their jokes, their rhythms. But slowly, your own instincts start to erode. Things that once would have felt uncomfortable, a comment, a favor, a blurred line, start to feel expected, even deserved. This doesn't happen through force, it happens through gradual exposure. Subtle shifts in language, inside jokes that normalize boundary blurring, casual remarks that minimize your discomfort. You don't wake up one day and realize the rules have changed. You wake up months later wondering how you got so far from what you originally thought was okay. Here's where people often feel vulnerable. You start tolerating things that you would have questioned before. You feel guilty or dramatic for noticing little shifts. Or you're praised for being easygoing, understanding, and you start wearing that praise like armor. Here are some red flags to notice. Your internal "this feels weird" reaction happens, but you immediately override it. You find yourself rationalizing behavior that would have once made you feel uncomfortable. You fear that if you say something, you'll seem difficult, immature, or too sensitive. Here's how to protect yourself. Pause and track changes. Ask yourself, would I have been okay with this like 6 months ago? Name shifts to yourself first, even quietly. This feels different than it did at the start. And trust internal discomfort. Not everything needs to be a confrontation, but nothing should be ignored. Manipulation doesn't usually happen all at once. It happens one small compromise at a time until you barely recognize what you originally believed you deserved. Sign 4, you start feeling responsible for their emotions. Somewhere along the way, the focus shifts. And without even realizing it, you start managing not just the relationship, but their feelings. And when they're upset, you feel guilty. When they're disappointed, you feel like you failed. When they're distant, you worry about how to fix it. The bond you thought was built on support quietly transforms into something heavier, emotional caretaking. Instead of both people being responsible for their own emotions, you start feeling like it's your job to make sure they're okay, they're happy, connected, and calm. Here's where people often feel vulnerable. You tell yourself it's being loyal or being thoughtful, but you feel anxious when you can't meet their needs, even if those needs weren't spoken directly. You measure your self-worth by how well you're managing their moods. And this can often be subconscious. Here are some red flags to notice. You feel like you're walking on eggshells, but can't point to anything specific that they did wrong. Their approval feels like oxygen, and when you don't have it, you panic. You minimize your own needs to avoid stressing them out. Here's how to protect yourself. Remember, your feelings are data too. If you're constantly suppressing discomfort to keep the peace, something is out of balance. Use mental temperature checks. Pause and ask yourself, am I managing my emotions or someone else's? Try to anchor your worth internally. Your value doesn't depend on how regulated they feel around you. True connection isn't about sacrificing your peace for someone else's comfort. It's about both people holding space for each other, without conditions, without pressure or fear. Sign 5, you feel smaller, even when nothing bad happens. Sometimes there's no big betrayal, no dramatic confrontation, no obvious moment where you can point and say, that's when everything changed. Instead, it's quiet. You just start to shrink. You second guess yourself more, you apologize for existing more, you dream smaller, you hope for less. And the relationship that once felt full of promise now feels like walking around a beautiful house you're not allowed to touch. Here's where people often feel vulnerable. You tell yourself you should be grateful, even when you feel hollow. You stop bringing up ideas, needs, or concerns because it feels pointless. You start believing that asking for more respect, more boundaries, more honesty, more space would make you too much. And here are some red flags to notice. You feel like a muted version of yourself around them. You crave their approval more than you crave your own peace. You realize you're afraid, not of what they'll do to you, but of who you'll become if you stay. And here's how to protect yourself. Name the shrinking, even quietly. I feel less myself around them. I feel less strong around them. I feel less confident around them. Stay connected to your old self. Look at who you were before this dynamic, this job opportunity, this relationship started. And give yourself permission to outgrow the cage. Safety never requires you to be smaller. If any part of this felt familiar, that matters. Grooming isn't always loud. It doesn't always wear the face of danger. Sometimes it wears the face of opportunity, connection, even love. But true support never requires you to lose yourself. True mentorship doesn't make you question your worth, and true love will never punish you for growing. If this video gave you something to think about, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. And if you're comfortable, please share your story. It could really help someone else. It's really easy to miss the signs. Don't beat yourself up if you have or if you did. What matters is learning to notice them now, and you're allowed to protect your future, even if someone else made you doubt you could. If you'd like us to create a self-check quiz or a follow-up video diving deeper into certain scenarios, let us know in the comments. Your safety matters, and we wanna help you feel seen, supported, and informed. We've also added some resources in the description. If you're in danger or need immediate support, please reach out to a trusted hotline in your country.